Hi, my name is Michael Zosel, content creator of Vision Performance Stories. Today we'll be addressing an intriguing question. Can stories help you thrive under pressure? Believe it or not, we have some exciting research to share with you on how this is possible.
Here is the agenda for our presentation. It is designed to give you a strong background on how stories can help you thrive under pressure with some of the latest research on the topic. We will also learn more about the Vision Performance Stories channel and what it has to offer. At the end, we'll discuss some exciting coaching session opportunities that can be made available.
Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment and share a quick story about myself. So here goes. In 1990, I attended the Minnesota boys team tennis tournament. The final team match was very close. There was a lot on the line. Neither school had won a state title yet. It came down to the final set between the third singles players. Their teammates cheered them on loudly after each point. The tension in the air was thick and getting thicker. As a neutral spectator, I still got swept up in the intensity of the match. I felt that my heart was pounding, my adrenaline was rising, and my tennis muscles were quietly twitching, shot after shot. So then, when the match was over, I quickly drove home and I wrote down everything I saw, heard, and felt. The notes that I took turned into a notebook, and then the notebook turned into a book. And my book was then finally published, called Vision Tennis, in 1996. The response was very positive. I spoke at tennis conventions all over the country. A handful of readers told me that they had zone-like experiences for about a week after reading the book. I didn't know what to say. There was no definitive research to support their claims, so I considered getting a PhD in sports psychology. But with a mortgage, a toddler, and a baby on the way, I decided to stay with my corporate career in training and process improvement. It was fun, interesting, challenging, but to be honest, it wasn't my true passion. So I continued to write short stories and I included them into my training programs. Because you see, writing stories has always been my passion. Well, about 10 years ago, research revealed that reading fiction was good for the brain. Wow, and that hit me like a ton of bricks. That made total sense to me. MRI research can see what is going on inside the brain. The truth is now being revealed. Some of you may ask, do you have any regrets not getting your PhD? No, I have no regrets. I am not bitter. In fact, I'm excited. Brain research is now answering many of my lifelong questions. It is a great time to be alive. So let's get started with our presentation.
The U.S. Department of Education reported that student test results were declining in reading and math scores nationally. Reading scores dropped 32% below the basic level. Longitudinal research conducted by Dr. Gloria Mark from the University of California, Irvine, has revealed that our attention spans have dropped from 150 seconds to 47 seconds, a 69% reduction in 16 years. Digital distractions have caused the average attention spans to drop significantly. People today are feeling mentally overloaded, constantly distracted, overstimulated, and increasingly unable to focus deeply. People with distracted brains constantly switch screens back and forth and check their texts, causing mental stress and fatigue. As a result, They are not able to think deeply, read thoroughly, or process complex information. What is most alarming is that it takes up to 25 minutes to regain proper focus after being distracted by their screens. Research consistently shows that cell phone distractions cause reduced productivity, slower reaction times, and increase accident risks. Now that we define what causes the distracted brain, let's discuss an exciting solution. Story-based learning. Yes, you heard that right. Story-based learning, because it uses fictional narratives, scenarios, and activities to contextualize the content, making it more engaging and memorable for learners. Reading or listening to stories can calm distracted brains and prepare people to perform better under pressure. Since the beginning of time, storytelling around a campfire was the central way for learning. Vision Performance Stories harnesses the powers of fictional storytelling for optimal brain processing and human performance. Not convinced? Let's see what the research says. It has been proven that fiction reduces stress. At the University of Sussex, 16 volunteers were monitored with heart rate sensors and skin conductance sensors, doing 5 different activities. They discovered that 6 minutes of reading reduced stress levels by up to 68%. Now, again, all 5 of these activities were beneficial, but reading for pleasure takes the prize. Research also reveals that fiction builds your vocabulary. A survey consisting of 28,000 participants found that the more fiction people read, the higher their vocabulary scores. Longitudinal research shows that active readers in the 4th grade outperform average readers and non-readers through high school. One long-term study consisting of 11,000 participants found that strong early reading ability was associated with greater socioeconomic success decades later. So, we can conclude that if you read for pleasure, you are setting yourself up for future success. Let's now take a look at the MRI studies. But before I do, I want to make clear that I am not a neuroscientist. MRI studies can be highly detailed and technical. So I created a conceptual model of the brain to simplify the results. It was developed for educational purposes only. So what I have here is a bird's eye view of the brain. At the top represents the front of the brain. At the bottom, it represents the back of the brain. On the left, near the temple, represents the language region. On the upper right, represents motor skills. And at the center, it represents emotional regulation at the center. So it also lights up differently depending on the research. So a gray circle represents minimal activation, a yellow circle represents moderate activation, and an orange circle represents high activation. Okay, now let's take a look at the MRI studies. The first MRI study I would like to address is an athletic visualization study conducted by Dr. Olson in 2008. He conducted an MRI study of elite and novice high jumpers. The high jumpers were asked to visualize successful high jumping guided by verbal instructions while lying still. The elite jumpers were able to activate the motor regions of their brain, as noted with the yellow, or the orange circle. The novice jumpers were not able to activate the motor regions as distinctly, as noted by the gray yellow circle on the right. So, for its time, the study was widely recognized for demonstrating how the brain processes mental practices through motor imagery. Research also showed that fiction changes brain connectivity. A study from Emory University monitored 21 subjects reading a novel entitled Pompeii for 19 days. The research then proved that reading a novel boosts connectivity in both motor and language regions of the brain. It also showed that the neuro effects after reading the book lasted up to 5 days. And this lines up to the experiences my vision tennis readers had, who claimed that they had zone-like experiences for up to a week, which I find is very exciting. So, similar to athletic visualization, reading fiction engages the brain's motor region, placing the reader in the protagonist's body. And here's another study showing that fiction improves social intelligence. 117 high school students read Harry Potter series. Researchers observed increased empathy and a relationship between fiction reading and attitudes towards stigmatized groups. In another MRI study, it measured subjects viewing emotionally stressful images. With similar images, the subjects were then encouraged to reinterpret the images with a constructive point of view. The emotion regulation regions then became more active. Emotionally charged stories and images may help people reframe situations, enabling stronger empathy and emotional composure. Which do you think is better for the brain, reading or listening to fiction? Well, the research reveals that reading and listening to fiction is highly correlated. An MRI study examined brain activity while the participants either read or listened to identical narrative stories. Listening and reading stories produced highly correlated neural activation patterns. The findings suggest that using either modality, reading or listening, is viable for successful learning. So, what we have here is reading or listening to fiction helps people self-activate their brains in a very positive way. Storytelling can activate 3 additional brain regions: the language region, the emotion region, and the motor simulation region. 3 activated brain regions can now provide significant support to the overworked analytical region, which resides in the upper left front part of the brain. Getting 4 regions of the brain to self-activate as a team is a very exciting prospect for the future. Okay, let's summarize the research. We now know you have less than 47 seconds to get someone's attention. We now know just 6 minutes of reading fiction significantly reduces stress. We now know the more you read fiction, the better your vocabulary. We now know after reading fiction, the carryover effects can last for about 5 days. We now know fiction and athletic visualization activate similar brain regions. We now know when you listen to or read a good story, your brain activates in the same exact patterns. And we now know stories activate 3 additional regions of the brain. From a research standpoint, it is an exciting time to be alive. With the research in mind, here's our approach. If viewers listen to a relevant story that captures their attention within 47 seconds and sustains engagement for a minimum of 6 minutes, the brain shifts into a state of focused simulation that supports better learning and performance. So, in other words, if you listen to the story, your body and mind naturally relaxes. Then the words from the story allows your brain to self-activate pictures, sound effects, and motor skills associated with achieving optimal performance. Here's some more information about our channel. We present narrative performance stories about people performing under pressure on the field, in the workplace, and in life. Each story reveals how ordinary people become extraordinary when they learn to recognize pressure, choose a process, trust their preparation, and experience flow. If you enjoy great storytelling and want something you can actually use, you have come to the right channel, and we appreciate your support. Let's shift gears and talk about the 4 phases to higher performance. Phase 1, recognize pressure. The pressure is just a signal, not the enemy. In most cases, there is no reason to have feelings of the fight or flight response, like our ancestors from prehistoric times. Common symptoms are known to increase heart rate and blood pressure, muscle tightness, racing thoughts, and fear of negative outcomes. If these symptoms are prolonged over time, it could cause damage to your health and performance. The truth is, you don't need to eliminate pressure altogether. The challenge is to learn to work within it. When I work with clients, I help them break things down phase by phase so they can work within pressure more calmly towards better performance. Now that pressure is recognized and better understood, let's move to phase 2. Choose a process. A process is a sequence of mental skill sets used to manage pressure before and during performance. Some examples are triangle breathing, mental modeling, narrow external focus, between play rituals, and cue words. These skill sets and more help clients keep their composure, block negative thinking, and deepen their rhythm and focus. Learners are encouraged to choose skill sets that work best for them. Every one of my clients are different people, and thus their choice and application of mental skill sets will be unique to them. All they need to do is own their process. Now that you have chosen your process, let's move to phase 3. Trust your preparation. Confidence is built long before top performance can be achieved. It is done by following the 5 P's. Proper preparation produces peak performance. So how do you properly prepare? The answer is mental rehearsal and rigorous repetition practicing your skills. To be more specific, relevant story listening to vision performance stories fused with hands-on practice accelerates top-performing muscle memory for athletic and business endeavors. This mental and inner trust becomes your fortress under pressure. Let's shift to the final phase, phase 4, experience flow. Performing in the zone should not be random. When you are experiencing flow, you feel focused, effortless, adaptive to whatever comes your way. Here's why I think it happens. Pressure is recognized, process is executed regularly, preparation is trusted, and then the flow switch gets activated in your brain. Your motor region skills activate at a high level. Your emotion region at the center heightens and builds emotional strength. Your language region quiets down. Your analytical region plays a supportive role. When your brain regions activate properly, flow can be a well-trained habit. In summary, pressure reveals, process guides, preparation strengthens, and performance flows. Vision performance stories are becoming an essential ingredient for thriving under pressure.
If any part of this presentation resonated with you and you're looking for personalized guidance, I'd be glad to help. Some people prefer learning on their own, while others may appreciate having someone to walk alongside them as they develop new skills. Over the past 25 years, I have worked in instructional design, performance improvement, and coaching across a variety of business settings and sports, including baseball, basketball, football, golf, hockey, pickleball, and of course, tennis. If you're curious whether coaching may be a good fit, I invite you to schedule a free 15-minute introductory session. We'll simply talk, explore your goals, and see if working together makes sense. Here are some of the details.
Personalized coaching sessions are designed for individuals seeking one-on-one guidance on mental skill sets for sports and professional growth. My coaching will help you learn practical step-by-step techniques to manage pressure and improve focus. You will practice breathing exercises with an optional heart rate monitoring device to improve essential reset skills. And you will rehearse and refine preferred mental skill sets through guided practice. And remember, I am offering free 15-minute introductory sessions. To learn more, go to visionperformance.com. I would enjoy helping you learn to thrive under pressure for your sport, career, or personal growth. Please subscribe to our channel. We appreciate your support.